and through my favorite road in the world. Let's do it. Hello and a very good morning from somewhere near Santa Barbara, California. You join me and my Lotus Emira test car, and we are going to go do what this car is built to do. We have to go for a drive to go drive. Everything centered around the Emira is about driving fun, driving pleasure, driving enjoyment, and it is truly one of the last manual mid-engine cars on sale, maybe ever. And well, now that they're just starting to go on sale here in our market in America, I thought no better time than to make a video, grab this car for a week, and go enjoy it and figure out what the Emira is all about. Is it hardcore enough? Is it comfortable enough? Is it efficient enough? And of course, can you have fun in the Emira? I think we all know the answer is yes, but is it enough to satisfy the itch? That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going on a roughly 100-mile road trip, which isn't too bad, down to some of the best driving roads in the world, where I'm going to be meeting up with a bunch of other car enthusiasts, car journalists, friends of mine, and we're just going to go drive. And I feel like no better way to review the Emira than to just go drive. So join me on a day adventure in one of the coolest new cars on sale, the Lotus Emira. Well, we're starting here at about 4:50 in the morning, super early. And in fact, I'm such a nerd. I wasn't supposed to leave here for another couple hours, but the Emira was parked in valet. And I'm like, how can I have this awesome car parked in valet? I can't sleep. I got to go drive. So we're going to knock out the big part of the drive this morning. I have a couple little work podcast things to do that we'll do closer down to Angeles Crest Highway. And then we're going to be joining the Good Vibes Breakfast Club, which is sort of a gathering every Friday morning of car enthusiasts, journalists, people in the industry, and adjacent to go have some fun. And well, there's no better car than the Lotus Emira. This is the only, I believe, Lotus Emira in California at the time of this recording that's able to be driven. There's a couple press cars. This is the only V6 manual transmission. Honestly, the one you want. They have a 4-cylinder dual clutch version that is like sort of the AMG Mercedes one. I don't think that's going to be so popular in our market. I would be interested to try it, but to me, you know, manual transmission, this is the only way you can get it with the V6. The V6 is offered also with a torque converter automatic, but that's an Eisen box. I think this is also an Eisen. How do you actually say it? Box in this particular one. Anyway, this is the only one I would consider. V6 manual Emira, looks the business. This one is spec'd to just over $100,000. It's a first edition, actually has over 9,000 miles on it. So it's been well used as press, 9,000 press car miles is rough. I've put about 400 miles on it this week already, just enjoying it in the canyons, driving it up here to Santa Barbara. I'll talk a lot about that on my drive, but I have to put the bags in there. Of course, a car like this needs to do a little bit of everything. It needs room for two, it needs room for luggage, and well, let's go at least talk about the daily ability of this car before we go shred it in the hills later. I'll walk you through all the specs and everything as we hit the road, just so you learn a little bit more about the car. For example, it's the supercharged Toyota V6 engine, which just sounds awesome from inside the cabin. And it is a direct competitor, I have to mention, to the Cayman GTS that I've had on this channel just a few weeks ago. Actually, spec for spec, this one and the Cayman GTS that I just reviewed for you guys, they're only a couple $1,000s apart, and they're 40 pounds different in terms of weight. The horsepower is nearly the same. They are almost identical on paper. However, in person, this car just looks so much more special. It's more of an occasion. It gets so many more compliments and so much more conversation around this car rather than just another Cayman. And I absolutely love the spec. If I were to get my own Emira, which after this week, I mean, we'll talk about it. Maybe I should get one of these as soon as I can. I would probably go for yellow. I love this spec. So let's get all the luggage loaded up. I got to throw the coffee on the roof and we'll get to work. Okay, guys. Well, this is actually the downside of the Emira, especially when compared with the Cayman. There is no front trunk in the Emira. And part of that is because of the double wishbone suspension up front, just taking more room than the strut style suspension in the Cayman. However, I would say we still have a fairly deep and fairly wide trunk here in the back of the Emira. There's not much you can see right now, but I have to shoehorn my camera equipment and my bag in this car. Now, I drove up here with Alyssa. She's actually flying home back to Colorado, and so I do have the interior space here where I can put things. This car is spec'd with this sort of brown interior. Really like it. I would do a light color interior. They have like a really nice gray, light gray interior. I love that you can have and see the shifter linkage in here. You know, here's the 6-speed manual. The engine, you know, doing sort of a transverse mounted mid-engine manual situation. That the shifting's always not 100% crisp and perfect, but no major complaints from me. I mean, we'll talk about all of these nerd things as we get moving. So the bags have to go in the back, and let's get them loaded up. Well, I mean, it swallows my big backpack just fine back here. One thing I noticed just from spending the week with this car is that the baggage actually gets pretty warm in the back because your engine's right here and the supercharger's right there. So we have a bit of a hatch situation. Everyone loves a hot hatch. Closes right there. Nope, didn't quite latch it. I have heard others complain about the trunk opening, closing issues. I don't really have that on this model at all. You just hold the button on the key for a long time, and wow, I was saying that just as the trunk doesn't open. Welcome to Lotus lifestyle. Little bugs and things. Look at that, it's not even opening the latch. Sometimes you gotta get it all the way down and latched, and then it'll pop open. Yep, so if you have it just on the first catch of the latch, it will not pop the trunk, which means you have to absolutely slam it shut in order to open up. Little sports car things, and I think if I'm just a bit more aggressive on it, there we go. We can get it to latch. No problem at all. Let's hit the road, 100 miles down to Pasadena. Well, it's time to head out on the move. It is early morning, especially for me, Kyle Connor time. It's 4:54 a.m. That is an early rise, but we have a really fun day ahead of us. And I think even though I've had the chance to drive this car all week now, I think it speaks volumes, at least to me, that I'm up early, excited to go drive this car, even after already spending the week with it, which never happens. So there is this aura of specialness that the Emira has that I didn't even feel that with the Cayman so much. Now I have to say the Cayman we'll do a little bit more of a comparison video in the near future comparing Cayman to Emira. So if you have questions on that, I'm gonna have both cars together in probably the next episode on this channel. So I just want to keep this video about the Emira, but we're off. Now, driving up here, I drove 96.1 miles, it says, and I got 24.7 mpg. I think it was just above that. Maybe just the valet moving it around, it dropped a tiny bit. That, to me, is not enough efficiency. So I wonder if we'll be able to squeeze through here, but I guess we got to go back out this way. There's a truck that's getting stuck making a turn here. So essentially, while we wait for this guy to sort everything out, the major downside with this car that I'm finding immediately is the consumption of the vehicle seems pretty high. In the canyons, I'm getting 8 to 12 mpg driving it how I would want to drive it, and it's just, that's fine. But on the highway, 25, 26 mpg for a 3,000, that's 3,200 pounds roughly, car with a V6 engine, it just doesn't seem that great. But if that's the biggest compromise of the car, I think we can handle that. We're doing just fine. So we need to find our way onto the highway. I'll catch up with you while we're cruising. I'll tell you a little bit about the car, a little bit about the spec, and that'll be that. As we're just heading our way over to the highway, it's probably a good time to talk about how the Emira drives around town, since most people will probably live in a town and have to use it. And I have to say, other than the seating position being pretty high, that's not actually a problem just in the city. That's kind of everywhere. I wish I could get another couple inches lower. the sight lines are great. I actually was just driving a Honda Acura NSX yesterday, which is another mid-engine car, a bit bigger and more complicated than this one especially, but that car had way worse sight lines than this one. This is like a very usable car. It's easy to get in and out of this car. It's very easy to drive. The only thing I'll mention, at least with the V6 manual, is at very low RPM, the engine makes almost like a timing chain grungy noise. I'm really particular about pulling away from a stop with very little revs on the engine. I want to cause the least amount of stress on the clutch. I don't want it like 3,000 RPM slipping the clutch, and you don't have to do that in this car, but it did take me some time to get used to the low speed characteristics pulling away on a hill versus the Cayman. Like I mentioned, that one does like throttle compensation. When you roll off the throttle, you never have to hit the gas. This requires a little bit more skill, and I don't know if you can tell by it following the lines of the road, but this vehicle does tramline quite a bit, which means that it kind of gets caught in the grooves of the road and gets pulled left and right as you're driving around. But the steering is light. It is a not an electric power steering rack, it's a hydraulic rack. The headlights are amazing in this car, one of the best headlights on sale. And I'm not sure, you know, the car that I'm driving here, this is a European spec vehicle, not a US spec car. I wonder if the headlights are going to be better you know, for the Euro cars than the US cars, only because we have some weird output regulations when it comes to lighting. And when I use the high beams on this, I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. What's kind of cool to me is, you guys know I own a Polestar 1. We've made videos with that on this channel. And this car and that car share a lot of switchgear, the turn signal stocks, the lighting, because it's all Geely stuff. So I'm pretty familiar with a lot of that. Let's just gently get up to speed on the highway. I have the vehicle in its tour mode. Love the supercharger whine. Engine's not fully up to temperature, so we're just gonna be gently accelerating mid-throttle, mid-revs. And it just sounds amazing, right up to an easy 80 miles an hour, like nothing in this one. And the one thing I have to say about the Emira merging onto the highway is, it's docile enough around town. It's fun to drive around town. It's easy to drive around town when you get over the low speed starting thing, which that'll just take most people a couple days to get used to, and then it'll be fine. It's nothing like an old school supercar that's actually hard to drive. This is very easy to drive. When you're cruising on the highway in this car, you can just eat the miles. It's crazy how nice this is to cruise in. And I should mention as well, since I mentioned I would talk about specs, well, we have 400 horsepower, we're like low 3,000 pounds. Of course it's mid-engine, but the weight balance is pretty far back. I want to say 60%, 65% of the weight on the rear axle versus the front. We'll talk more about that when we go into the canyons. But this one is the touring model, which means we're on the Goodyear Eagle F1 tires, not the Pilot Sport Cup 2s. And it's a fantastic tire and suspension package for this car. I have not driven the sport model. I've only spent time in this touring one, but Lotus told me that it's only about a 5% difference in terms of spring and damper rate. It's very minor. So I'm not really sure it matters if you get sport or touring. And I have to say, having this car for the week, I appreciate the comfortable, compliant, nice ride, but then it's also incredibly fast when in the canyons, but it doesn't beat you up. And that's the nice thing about having this mid-engine stiff chassis. It can let the suspension work, and that's where the Lotus chassis guys just absolutely do better than anyone else, is in the chassis tuning. And I have almost zero complaints about the chassis tuning of this car. The interior's nice, the sound system, it's okay. It doesn't matter, it's a Lotus. You're not buying this as a daily driver. Maybe you are, and the sound system's better than you would maybe expect, but this car with 90, 100 miles on it is already rattling like crazy. Every time the bass hits, I get a massive rattle from the back over here, so I don't even listen to the music. But I've got this great V6 engine that, you know, it's just nice in the background while cruising. And of course, as you give it throttle, you get a really good supercharger whine, just to let you know it's there. Road noise is quite loud, but it's a really cool sports car. When you compare it to other vehicles in the category, it's not out of the norm. It's what I'm trying to say is, this is a vehicle I could do thousands of miles in and not complain at all. This is definitely enough of a highway compliant vehicle where you can just cruise for days on end. I think really the limiting factor, there's two limiting factors when it comes to highway cruising in the Lotus Emira, and it would be the fuel economy, which again, I tried to be really efficient driving up here, never over 3,000 RPM, gentle throttles, and I only got 25-ish mpg. That's not great. And the luggage capacity, because it's the double wishbone up front, you don't have a front trunk, there's no storage. So there is some storage behind the rear seats, which is nice. And so you can fit a small backpack or a couple little things back there, but it's just a little bit hard to get things into the back, and I wish it had a bigger trunk. So as a touring vehicle, the luggage capacity and fuel economy are the limiting factors. As a sports vehicle, those things don't really matter. But I would argue this is still in the category of a car that needs to do a bit of everything. And I think it satisfies the highway cruising well enough where it shouldn't be an issue if you have to go on a driving tour or cross country or something like that. People are gonna love it. Has cruise control as an example. I just rock this switch over to cruise. I can hit, well, there's the limiter. Hold on, I'm confused again. This should be similar to my Polestar. There we go. Cruise set, 77 miles an hour. It's roughly 2,700 RPM, just cruising. Fifth and sixth gear are almost the identical gear ratio, which is way too close. But, you know, I wish sixth gear was a bit taller. But here we are cruising. Like I said, if you're at 80 miles an hour, you're under 3,000 RPM. The engine's in the background, not really a problem. You can crank up the tunes if you wish, and you can cover some distance. So that's what we're gonna do now. We have an hour and a half drive till we get down to where we need to go, and see you along the way. This is always one of the most beautiful stretches of road. Too bad it is dark this morning, but we should have a pretty cool sunrise. We're driving just along the Pacific Ocean down the 101 as we make our way from Santa Barbara towards the LA area. You can see the ocean just over there. What a cool view. I'm just cruising at 75 miles an hour, sixth gear. Well, good morning. The sun is coming up. It is, yeah, we've been on the road for roughly an hour now. We're only about 35 minutes away from our starting destination in the canyons. And wow, just, you start to realize why the seats are wide for highway cruising. Like, I feel like a lot of, including me, reviewers get caught up in just driving performance of a vehicle, and that will mostly be what I focus on in Cayman versus Emira. But 90% of a use case, even for a sports car like this, will be daily driving, going to the track day, going to the autocross, going to the canyons, even just commuting in the car. And then you start to appreciate, oh, I don't actually have bucket seats. It's not incredibly uncomfortable for me to ride in this car. It's a nice vehicle. The road noise is incredibly loud. I tried to have a couple phone calls this morning with some of the European colleagues, and you know, they're already up this early, and well, it's late for them. And I was like, I can't hear you, they can't hear me. So I just had to switch to manual phone to make those phone calls. So at 75, 80 miles an hour, this car, it's pretty noisy in here, not from an engine standpoint, but all the road noise transferring in. Also, I had some comments on the sound system that may have not been great. It's actually a better sound system than you would expect. It's got some good low-end bass, but again, the rattles in the back are certainly there. And, you know, overall, you just keep a hand on the wheel in case it tram lines into something, but the suspension is literal perfection for highway cruising. I wouldn't change a thing. It's completely passive. There's no adjustments. The only thing you can adjust are some alignment settings, and this one's set to a pretty comfortable cruise setting. Let's take a look at our efficiency. We've driven, yeah, just over 65 miles, and we've averaged, yeah, 23.9 mpg. And again, it's just cruising like this. So that is not good. But anyway, just wanted to check in. An hour in, this is a car you could do miles in all day. The cabin doesn't feel cramped to me. It's got room, it's got good CarPlay integration. The heated seats are in the menus. They don't work great. They like kind of kick on and off from time to time, but it's a Lotus. Like, there's little weird quirks here and there, as you would expect, and it adds to the charm and character of the car. I have to say, I am so amazed looking this car from the outside. You would have no idea how nice it is to drive on a cruise, on a long distance drive, a journey. They really nailed the highway portion of this car. If it was just a bit quieter, but then that would add weight, so everything's a compromise. I think they chose the right compromise here. This is a car you could just cruise all day in, and if you have to make a phone call, just put in AirPods or put the phone up to your ear, honestly, or just slow down or drive on smoother pavement. I don't know. That's not a huge complaint. Anyway, we're heading into cloudy and dreary LA at the moment. Let's hope we have good weather later on today. Well, viewers, you joined me in maybe a familiar place. This is where we film some car reviews here, right at the base of Angeles Crest Highway. What's going on? They're unloading stuff. It's pretty early. It's 6:17 in the morning. We just did 100 miles down here, got just, I think, under 24 mpg. So I keep talking about the efficiency. It shouldn't matter in a sports car, but I just think that's maybe not great. Could also have something to do with this is a Euro spec car, expecting maybe a little bit higher octane than what we have. Of course, 91 octane here just isn't going to cut it. The US spec cars should be able to run on 91 fine, and maybe they'll be more efficient. I'm not sure, but that's definitely a little bit of a concern. Anyway, I have to get in the next 10 or 15 minutes set up, do a podcast. After the podcast, then we can go driving. That's why I came down here this early, so I could do both. So I'm going to leave the Emira here, probably run over to Panera Bread if they're open, do the podcast in there, then we'll go have some more fun. All right, well, I've just finished up doing a podcast here at the local Starbucks. We got to go fuel that thing up, and then we're going to go canyon carving, doing what we want to do today. So let's pack up this into the trunk of the car, lock down all the loose luggage that's in there, then we can hit the canyon. So just fueling up here at the station ahead of the canyon run. We're right over by the Target. Always a bunch of cool cars around, but fueling this thing up, you need it, especially in the canyons. This has a pretty small tank, I think maybe around 15 to 18 gallons, which it's okay, it's not huge, but when you're getting 8 to 10 miles per gallon, yeah, well, you'll blow through this in a couple hours up in the canyons, no question. Well, good morning. I've met up with my friend Johnny Lieberman. You guys may know him from the Motor Trend channels. He has this Boxster GTS, which is actually, that's a PDK car, but yeah, we're gonna do like Boxster and Emira, just go for a drive together. Should be pretty fun. We're heading up to Good Vibes Breakfast Club, which is like a bunch of car enthusiasts all getting together to go have fun. So there's a very Porsche-centric day. I'm looking at every version of every Porsche ever made. That's a sports car. So we've got Caymans, we've got 911s, and in every trim. Anniversary editions, GT3s, GT3 RSs, some crazy stuff, of course, which is pretty cool. So we're just going for a gentle cruise. Johnny's got a, you know, like I mentioned, a press Boxster GTS. I've got the Emira, should be kind of fun. And yeah, we're not gonna go set any lap records. I figured I'd follow him up, and let's just go do what this car is built to do. I have it dialed up into track mode, which is how I've been driving the Emira anytime sporty. There's a Tour, Sport, and Track setting. The Tour is like great on the highway cruising. It really dials down the exhaust and it's pretty chill. But then the Sport mode opens up the exhaust flaps. There is a little dial in here that says that track mode makes the exhaust even louder. I haven't really noticed that. Valves are just open in Sport and Track mode, at least as far as my ears can perceive the difference. And track mode gives you a little bit different gauge display, which for me works perfectly, but I have heard some complaints that the steering wheel blocks the rev counter. No issues on my side. And then I also have you know, temperature in the bottom right, coolant temperature, and we also have fuel. We have some track gauges that you can throw on the screen, slightly different layout, big gear right in the center, so it says we're in third gear, and it does it not necessarily based off shifter position, but based off RPM calculation, which is interesting. So sometimes I had a new driver in here, I had them put it in first gear, and they're like, it doesn't show 1 on the screen, not until you start moving. So that was kind of funny and interesting how that worked. But track mode's great, backs off the ESP, dials up the powertrain to max attack. There is no rev match downshifting in this car. You have to do it yourself, which is kind of fun and nice. So I enjoy that. And you know, certainly this engine makes pretty good torque, even at low RPM. Here's just like 3,000 RPM, even under. And you can see it's actually accelerating. It's not just doing nothing, which is great for, you know, having forced induction compared to Johnny's Boxster, which is an NA car. He's got to rev it pretty high. I mean, this makes more power the more you rev it, but 6,000 RPM feels like where it really wakes up. There's a weird thing on this car, and it's on a lot of like mechanical limited slip diff vehicles, but essentially if you hit the throttle, the car pulls to the left, and when you lift off the throttle, it, you know, basically diverges to the right. So it's, you gotta be really careful, especially if you hit a red line. Like there's some corners on this road where I'm hitting the top of second, top of third. And on those, you pretty much, the car starts diving left and right. So anyway, it looks like Johnny's picking up the pace a little bit. Even that, during that little gear shift, the car moves around when you come on and off the throttle. So we're not gonna go super hard, but I'm just gonna follow him up and we'll see. I mean, I know he's a fast driver. I don't want to attempt to try and keep up with him, but we'll see how he does. So it should be interesting. And you'll just join me for a nice morning drive together. Why not? We're in two cool cars. Getting some heat into the brakes, which is always nice. And just letting him set the tone, letting him set the pace, which seems gentle at the moment. And we're stuck in some traffic. Well, that was a fun couple corners, but at least our traffic is Corvette, Cayman, 911, the Boxster that Johnny's driving, and the Emira. Wow. You can't beat LA car culture, man. This is so cool, and it's what it's all about. By the way, the Emira, a lot of attention at the fueling station, at the Shell station. A lot of car enthusiasts, of course, know about this car. It's technically not on sale in California at the moment, but my understanding is the emissions issue that's been holding up Emiras is about to lift, or going to lift imminently, I hope. And I know deliveries have started in other states here in the US, and certainly this is kind of the talk of the gas station was like, damn, how'd you get an Emira? And then they're like, oh, it's on a manufacturer plate. It's like, yes. So yeah, all part of the fun, and just enjoying a nice cruise up into the hills. Supercharger sounds awesome, easy to rev match. It's just a sweet sounding engine. I mean, it actually has a really good character and vibe inside the car. Outside the car, it doesn't really sound that special, which is interesting. So I wish it was a bit more special, but it's not. I mean, for example, I can hit second gear. So you can just hear, when you really ring it out, just, oh, it's awesome. Really encourages you to rev it all the way out. And the car is just, it's a fun car. It really is. Just turning AC off for a little bit more power, may as well. And just driving. This is what it's all about. Amazing steering feel in the Emira. It is, again, not a electric rack, so you get a really connected, really connected steering rack. And at times it bucks at you and pulls at you, and hit a bump wrong, you'll feel it right through the wheel, and it, you know, just reminds me how nice it is to have a light and direct front end, which is something I'm not used to driving a lot of electric cars, to be honest. And so this is really, really fun. I'm looking forward to driving it back to back with the Cayman tomorrow, so I can really feel out those differences. But just the experience of the car, the noise of the car, it feels special, feels fun, and yeah. Wow, easy 5th to 3rd rev match, no problem. What a way to start the day, no question. This is awesome. Well, now the roads are opening up a little bit. We're able to have some fun, which will be great to get these cars to get moving. And GT3 on the way down, man. The cars are great around here. The noises are good. The grip levels are nice. Again, we're just in the touring spec, so we have a Goodyear Eagle F1 tire, not the Cup 2, and even then the car just feels so light and narrow. Sorry, not narrow, light and nimble that you can really have some fun with it. Love easy rev matching. The pedal box is perfect for me, so I really love that. And we're just out for a nice cruise. What a way to start the day. Cool cars, great supercharger noise behind me. It's amazing that this is a Toyota V6 because it really sounds awesome. The induction noise is intoxicating. And you even have the little wastegate right here in the mirror. I can watch it as I hit the throttle sort of open and close, which is awesome. Just sounds good. This thing loves to run. I've had it up here in the canyons, really going pretty hard in it, and it loves it. I mean, we'll open it up later today after the event's over, and you know, we can really start to move, so I'll take you for a hardcore blast. But also the point of the Emira is it has to be comfortable enough to go for a drive with your buddies. This isn't a car you have to ring out to redline every single time and drive the shit out of it. So it yeah, I mean, you can, but you don't necessarily have to. And here we go as we through my favorite road in the world. Let's do it. The thing with the Emira is it has pretty long gears, so this is really a third gear car. Occasionally you'll get second gear out of a tight corner, but you're never hitting first. Sometimes in the Cayman you are hitting first. This is just short enough where second gear with the supercharger, you can just kind of leave it and you know, ride this nice torque band, which is awesome. So even here, 4,000 RPM, it picks up and boogies pretty good. The brake pedal feel is awesome. Even the ABS feedback is a little I would say almost artificial feeling, but you can hold it right at threshold braking, which is exactly what you need. It's easy to modulate, come off the pedal as you turn into a corner. And it's so important for a car that has a lot of weight that's rear biased. You do need this sort of pedal modulation that can just help you, you know, get the weight on the nose and hold it right there. You don't want too much weight on the nose, but you want just enough. And you can, once you learn how to drive this car, you can be very fast and very effective, at the same time having a very soft and comfortable suspension. And 400 horsepower may sound like a lot, but it's not, maybe in 2024, but it lets you use that power effectively and over a wide band. So yeah, call me an Emira fan. There's nothing this week I've loved more than getting in this car and driving it, regardless of the environment. It feels special to me in almost every area, but not like supercar special. It's usable. I feel like I can beat the crap out of it and it can just take it and it never feels stressed. I absolutely love that. So we're stuck in some more traffic, but I'll kick on the cameras if we get to some more fun and more driving, but ultimately just really enjoying the Emira. Through the tunnel, into the limiter. Having some fun, open roads, able to have some fun with the cars, that's for sure. Man, I'm watching that Boxster work and it just looks so sorted, that car. Versus here, it's a little bit softer, we don't have adjustable suspension, but still looks nice for sure, no question. Shifts are easy if you want them to be. M3 sending it. It's a rocky road, so we'll leave a little bit of distance so we don't crack a windshield. Cruise, nice 911 turbo behind us as well. Could be a Turbo S, not sure, but people are definitely up here and they're moving and they're good. That's awesome. We need more of that. Very close on full acceleration. Very close. So I'm probably up a gear from him. We'll hit third, may as well. Great way to start the morning. Letting these things sing. Absolutely love it. definitely is tall. I love that we hit fifth. Dead even on the straights. That is awesome. That is fantastic. Truly fantastic. Absolutely love that. What a fun run. Hell yeah, we really got to stretch the legs. That's a fast section. It's not where these cars excel. It's not where they really shine, but that 911, you know, obviously easily could keep up through theirs, and we're working these things down the straightaways pretty hard. You know, the tighter sections is where this car really shines. I just love the way this thing gets into a corner. Almost unlike anything else. Feels a little weak. What's our temperature? Looking good. But yeah, fourth gear is like pulls hard and revs dropping fifth. But honestly, on a public road, you don't need to be going that fast where it makes a difference. Steering wheel pad is capacitive, so occasionally my hand will brush across it and I lose what I'm looking for when it comes to my stats. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Tires are attached, nothing we can do about the pressures now, so just leave them. Wow, feels soft, but good grip through there. Here's actually where it's nice to have the touring suspension. It's letting the car work. Occasionally you'll hit a big enough bump where the front end is slight. It'll start to hop and bounce like that. You almost take a little bit of air. And this is where you want a compliant car. And no question, this feels amazing over the bumps. Double wishbone keeps that tire contact hatch right on the ground, right where you want it. It's awesome. And hell yeah. It's everything I want in a car. And I feel like I'm having more fun than Johnny is in the Boxster. This feels special. Supercharger whine. It's awesome. It's everything I want in a car right here. It's like the perfect amount of power, don't need any more, makes you work for it, which is a good trait to have in a vehicle. Yeah, it's awesome. And we've reached Newcomb's. This is where it all happens. Hell yeah. You can see we're up here hanging out, just chatting cars, a bunch of viewers, some cool stuff around, of course. So this is definitely the way to start the morning. Really enjoy this, absolutely. This is awesome. We have spent hours up here chatting. I'm following my friend Bo to the bottom of the hill. I don't think we're gonna do any video because I'll do some spicy driving later. So we're gonna go for a pretty fun cruise. Johnny's behind me, and here we go, time to rip down to the bottom of the hill. Well guys, it's a few hours later. I came back to my hotel to get some work done, and this is the key to the Emira. It's a pretty cheap plastic feeling key, to be honest, but when I click unlock, you can see double blink and the running lights come on. The car just has amazing proportions. It just looks incredible, but it is incredibly dirty after driving it hard. You can see we have brake dust all in the wheels. I've got bug guts and everything all over the front, and I have to shoot this car for a proper YouTube video, and I really just don't want it dirty. So let's open up the door handles, which don't automatically pop out, so you have to basically pull them out, and that is not a good door handle. To me, they just feel a little bit cheap and clunky, but getting in the car from a daily driving perspective is really nice. You just crawl in, you can lift up on this to start it, or what I find myself doing is just pushing right through this sort of cheap plastic feeling thing. I mean, not everything is super high quality, but then you get this sort of metal finish over the speakers. The startup sound is a little bit tin canny, so you got to go right into sport mode. Sometimes the screen takes a second to load up, but I drive it in tour on the highway, but around town it's always in sport. Track mode actually raises the revs a little bit. So you'll see it comes up just slightly versus sport, just giving it a little bit more noise. But we're gonna go to the car wash, get this thing all cleaned, as one does. So let me see if I can even find one, and we'll go get this all washed up. Well guys, you actually joined me, and it is the next day with the Emira, and it is the day that the Emira goes back. I'm actually right at the end of the test with this car. Well, I wanted to take you on a tour, show you around some of the styling, of course, stuff that we typically do in the beginning of the video, but it was 4:50 a.m. by the time we left Santa Barbara yesterday morning. And I, of course, just want to share some of my thoughts about driving this car in multiple environments and evaluating it today in the context of that, which is the Porsche 718 GTS 4-liter manual, which is almost spec for spec identical to this car. Stay tuned for a future video. But it really, actually having that car there helped me learn more about the Emira in the context of the Cayman that I had just a few weeks ago. Yes, I have it back for everything. I have to say, one thing we haven't really talked about yet is just how stunningly gorgeous this car is. I absolutely love the Hethel yellow color. This is exactly how I would spec mine if I were to order one, which I'm strongly considering at this point, actually. This is kind of a car that I really, really enjoy. And so this might be coming to the Kyle Connor garage at some point. I'm pretty much sold on the car. That doesn't mean everything is perfect, but I really like it. So In terms of sizing and everything, I just want to show you around some things. We talked about luggage space in the back. We haven't really talked much about the room behind the front seats. Yeah, we just were shredding it in the canyons and having fun, but a car needs to do a little bit more than just be a canyon carver. So the nice thing is, behind the front seats, you can see there's quite a bit of storage back there. So you can just throw blankets. We have a couple swag bags and stuff back there, and the car's easy to get in and out of. So as a dailyable device, it's actually not bad. It is certainly hardcore. The car, no question, is a sports car. The shifter is, you know, sometimes a little bit weird feeling. Like it's also a transverse mounted 3.5 liter V6 that, yeah, because the transmission's the wrong way, the linkages do some weird stuff. And of course, it's you got to give it some throttle at low speed so it doesn't stall. But the cool thing about this car is it's just comfortable enough and just barely tolerably quiet enough to do big miles in it. And I love to road trip. Nothing more I love than going on a trip and going on an adventure for the car that I'm in. So this is a vehicle I would take from Colorado out to maybe Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, to the awesome Smoky Mountains, drive the Tail of the Dragon and all the surrounding roads. Maybe at that point go through some of the Missouri hills and then back to Colorado. That could easily be a trip that I do in this vehicle, and it would be totally fine. The fuel consumption does leave some to be desired. I think no question, when you are gentle on this car, we got about 24.5 mpg on the way over here. But the thing is, when you drive it hard, it just drinks fuel. I mean, we're talking single digit MPG if you're driving it properly in the canyons. And I'm not talking high single digits. We're talking like 6, 7 MPG consistently. So that is just supercharger ripping, engine just drinking fuel. But what you get out of that is a lot of performance. So coming from the canyons, this car has probably the best steering feel of any modern car on sale. It has probably the most engaging chassis of any car on sale. What's cool is the touring model is soft and comfortable, but then incredibly hardcore from a kinematic standpoint, where the tire is always on the ground. It's amazing. I've made the decision, if I were to get one, I would get the comfort suspension. I don't need to drive the sport version. This is everything I need, and I just love how comfortable it is while cruising up and down the highways and even bumpy roads. Because again, unless you're doing track days where tracks are super smooth, this super soft suspension is amazing. The brakes are incredible. They just never give up. You always have braking power. And there's very few vehicles, maybe no vehicle I've ever driven, where I have spent hundreds of miles in the canyons just shredding this car. Of course, today we compared it to the Cayman. We've done a bunch of stuff, and it has never given up. The tire wear is almost non-existent, which is amazing, because of course, double wishbones, the tire is always on the ground, which is amazing, and it doesn't even weigh that much. If I were doing the type of driving that I was doing in this with an electric vehicle, I would have been through 2 sets of tires already this week. It's amazing how little consumables you use when driving this car hard, except for fuel. That's the only one that it does drink. It looks exotic, it feels exotic, it has this really special character to it. And one thing we haven't discussed is the image of Lotus. Lotus cars are owned by car enthusiasts, not D-bags trying to show off in their McLarens. You are a cool person if you drive a Lotus. And I've noticed that people feel the same way, because they've come up to me in this car and they're like, oh, so cool. What do you think of this, that, the other? The first question everyone asks is, who's like in the know, who knows this is an Emira, they ask, is it a V6 manual? Because that's the only one us car enthusiasts are actually interested in. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, hell yeah, that's sick. I would wonder what their reaction would be if I said, actually, it's the torque converter automatic. I hate to throw that car down without driving it, but it's just not what this car is for. You buy this car for the 3-pedal, for the amazing heel toe that you get out of it, for the amazing noise, and for the fact that you have to work to get this car to go quickly down a road. You can talk to other car enthusiasts because of that Lotus branding without the stigma of, I bought a car to show off. It looks exotic, but it doesn't come with the whole, look at this idiot over here in a bright yellow McLaren C8 Corvette, whatever, trying to show off. You buy this car because you love cars, you love driving, and you love performance vehicles. That is why you buy this car. So my day with the Emira, cruising on the highway, shredding in the canyons, I've been doing it all week, and of course just living with it day to day has been unbelievably positive. It has to be one of the best automotive experiences I've ever had. And that's to say I have a lot of boring automotive experiences driving electric cars. That's why I've been posting more on this channel. But it's done enough to capture my imagination and my heart. I truly love the Emira. It's one of those vehicles that will go down in history as perhaps the last ever manual transmission mid-engine combustion vehicle to launch. I don't hear of any other plans coming. This is the last fully combustion Lotus. It's a little bit sad, but it's also really unique in my career to have the opportunity to review this car, not only by itself, but also in the context of the 718, because these are the cars that I grew up watching videos on. This is what got me into vehicles, not of course the Emira specifically, but vehicles like this. And it's cool to be on the other side of the camera presenting my opinions to you on vehicles like this. I mean, it's sort of a dream come true to be able to review this car and to spend a week with it. So much so that I am willing to plunk down my hard-earned money on one. That also brings up the next question. Can I even buy one? I don't know. There's a long waiting list. They have some emissions things where they don't necessarily comply with regulations in ZEV states at the moment. And it's possible that I may never own up or end up with one of these in my garage. But I feel like that would be pretty sad if I don't end up with an Emira. It is a vehicle that can kind of do it all. It rewards good driving. And it is amazing in almost every way. The thing is, everything that I can choose to complain about on here, there's something else that it does really well to offset that. So it's not even worth nitpicking all the little things. It's not nitpicking how this garbage key is plastic and feels like crap, and the turn signals are out of a Volvo, and the software sometimes is slow to respond. Let's just celebrate the fact that there is a manual transmission mid-engine car that is as comfortable to tour around in as this one, as fast on a canyon road as this one, and looks as good as this one. And that is my review of the Emira, which there's so many more detailed information coming on the car in every driving category, efficiency test, performance test that we did in the comparison video, which will come up next. And it's not a hardcore comparison. We didn't do like track times, numbers. It's not like a traditional comparison. It's more of a celebration of the last two manual mid-engine sports cars on the market. I hope you watch that video, by the way, because I think you'll enjoy it. You probably won't enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed driving the Emira, though. Thanks for watching. See you in another one again soon. I'm going to go take this back to Lotus and cry.